welcome to Sword and Board presents Board, James Board. I'm Luke.
I'm Lars.
And I'm Dan.
This is the Farabee family talking about James Bond movies, surprisingly enough. How is everyone doing? The last time we talked, there was an insurrection going on.
And we're now recording on during Biden's first
At Resistance
100-day
HQ.
speech.
Yeah, I just got off of watching that to come do this.
Cool.
It's pretty cool to see. Things are pretty good over here at the Greensboro Farabees. We were able to host Mia and Papa here for a week. The kids were super excited to see them. Yeah, I'm gearing up to. I've got one more month to wrap up. Well, about a month and a half to wrap up my dissertation, and I start teaching my first class in about a month.
Awesome.
Outstanding.
Congrats.
Yeah. So things are pretty good. Lucas, how you doing?
I am okay. Nothing too exciting going on. We have been in apartment hunting. We have been not doing much, just going around doing projects. I have been repairing quilts. For those of you who don't know, our mother makes fantastic quilts, has made them for years, and I'm actually in the process of repairing the first quilt she ever gave me.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's because
Send photos.
It's just been, it's old, a little bit threadbare, just because I got it 25 years ago. So I'm in the process of breathing new life into it.
Is it the black and white and gray one?
It's the black and white and gray one. Yes.
Yep. So you're apartment hunting. You're looking for a new place?
So we are starting to. Yeah.
Make sure you do it within the season. You don't want to go over your limit.
Yep, and I have to aim for the heart. You know, it's really difficult to find a taxidermist who's willing to take on something that big. But
Yeah, I mean the square footage alone. Like, how do you embalm that? So.
Oh, yeah.
So tonight's, obviously we're next up in the James Bond Odyssey that we're going on is Thunderball. Tonight's drink is an ocean water martini, since so much of it takes place underwater.
Wow. So an ocean water martini is...
It's I don't know if that's actually the name of it. I just came up with it. I went to the liquor store and got a mini of vodka, and I looked at what was blue in the and it was 99 blueberries. Or raspberries, sorry, 99 blue raspberries. So it's 99 proof liquor and vodka.
Oh, I thought there was salt water involved, but
And it is
even better.
disgusting.
one of these days, you're gonna have one that's actually good. You know, I don't know when, but one of these days you will.
I started with a martini.
So I've got...
No, you
I've
started
got
with
the-
you started
I'm sorry, what?
you started with beer and olives.
A beer and off it, which was fine. I started with just a good solid chilled vodka, and then I've gone themed with them for these drinks.
For Goldfinger.
So I've got the gin martini with very dry wine. So it's very good. I tell you what, Lars, it looked very nice. It looked very ocean water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you should probably throw that out.
I can't waste.
I'm drinking cherry Coke and water. So
Hey, I like your
doing
glasses.
good. Thank you.
So yeah, so
They're for staring at a computer.
we're doing Thunderball. Dad, do you want to give us your rundown of Thunderball?
Absolutely. So, Thunderball, a brief synopsis. Bond investigates the hijacking of a Vulcan loaded with 2 atomic bombs, which had been taken by Spectre. The organization demands a ransom for the return of the bombs, of course. Bond follows a lead to the Bahamas, where he meets up with his CIA counterpart and friend, Felix Leiter, who, of course, is another Felix Leiter now. The pair suspect a rich playboy, Emilio Largo, probably one of the best Bond villains. He was really cool and classy, who is soon discovered to be Spectre's number 2, ordered by Secretive's number 1 to direct the operation and search the area around his yacht, and then the area where they think the yacht may have traveled. After finding the plane, the Vulcan, but without the nuclear devices on board, the two agents arranged for Largo's yacht to be tracked and ambushed once the bombs had been moved by Largo. It's interesting to read a synopsis like that because the movie was long and involved and a lot of things going on, and they distilled it to one paragraph. That's the synopsis.
Which I told Lucas this initially, Dad, that this was fine. I wasn't all that impressed after watching it.
Wow.
This was fine, and there was some fun stuff in it. It didn't connect with me as much as the other ones that we've watched so far. This first one that I just kind of missed, and I almost wonder if it was really long. It felt its length. I took notes it takes us 40 minutes before Bond is introduced to plot. Even introduced to hey, there's a bad thing happening. We're 40 minutes in.
Right. There's a long, involved setup for this entire movie.
Right. And we're an hour before we meet Q. So it takes us a while. Whereas the other ones aren't necessarily. They're not short movies. They're meandering as well, but they're meandering after Bond figures out that there's a plot.
And it's interesting because I thought that's where this was going to go, that's where you were going to go with this, because to me, I watched this movie as a 9-year-old. Mm-hmm. I went to the theater. The family went to the theater. We saw this movie, and this movie was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. It was underwater. It was scuba suits. It was people fighting underwater with spear guns. I mean, I remember coming home thinking, oh my God, this was the best movie I've ever seen. And of course, I'm thinking about this movie as a 9-year-old, not as a 65-year-old.
Right.
Or a 36-year-old, a 37-year-old. I'm thinking about it as I'd never seen this before. It was really exciting. There was a jetpack. There were, all these really cool things. Yeah. And now I'm kind of. It's hard for me to see it without that jaundice.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not trying to yuck. I'm not trying to yuck.
Oh no,
either.
no.
That's not.
I think it's really interesting that you say that, because if I looked at it with with the blinders on and a 65-year-old eyes, I would probably agree with you.
I like this one. My thought is, as much as everyone says, as much as Goldfinger is the one that everyone is the quintessential Bond movie. Bond movies as we know them. There's a fantastic line about, I can't remember the writer who said it, but whenever most people, when they set out to make a Bond movie, they try to make From Russia with Love and end up making Thunderball. And I like this. Yeah, and Thunderball is this is the quintessential. This isn't the quintessential Bond movie. This is the stereotypical Bond movie.
Yeah, I think this movie. You know how they later on they went completely overboard with gadgets. And everything. I think this one, it carried it up to we're right on the line. He's got the backpack underwater that he he can fly through the water and rip.
Not one but two jetpacks in this movie.
Oh yeah, and absolutely, as well as all of the underwater fighting. It was it went up to a level that you're over the top, but you're not quite completely falling off the mountain. Mm-hmm. Whereas follow-on movies, they kind of went over the top.
Right. There's a lot of stuff that I like. I liked a lot of the underwater stuff. I liked the jetpack stuff. It just, I'll mention as we're going through. I'm sure we'll kind of talk about the whole thing, but just overall, I've always loved the idea of what happens when James Bond's on vacation. So the first 30 minutes of this is James Bond on vacation. Yeah, cram that into a regular James Bond movie, and I think that bit, if they snip that out. So this movie for me is just a pacing issue. So if they take that out,
there we go. See, I don't know because
for me the big Yeah, go ahead.
No, the big thing is, I disagree because it is a little bit slower, but we still have that's why he fights that member of the Tongs, is to give us a little bit more action immediately on. But the fact that had Bond not been on vacation, the entire movie falls apart because that's how he recognizes that Angelo was there. And it's a happenstance that Bond on vacation is still James Bond. That he's still we see him at the top of his game when he's not even supposed to be playing.
I mean, the very beginning of the whole movie is just a teaser. It's like a mini movie that shows
and that's every Bond movie.
Him getting beat up, and it gets the jetpack, and he
beats the guy up and kills him, and then throws the flowers on the body.
Yeah, exactly. And
And I love his line about the jetpack. No well-dressed man should be without one.
Well, because it's not.
I
Well,
wrote that
it's
one
not.
down too.
It's not a jetpack. It's a rocket belt. That's the.
And it was really interesting. Bell Laboratories had just invented that jetpack, and they had been trying it out. It could fly for like 27 seconds, I think. And the guy that invented it in the flyer, there was only one guy that ever flew it. He flew it in this movie to promote the jetpack. So they kind of, stuck this into the movie which it was really cool. But
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also, I love that jetpack sound. That jetpack sound is actually fire extinguishers because the jetpack didn't sound like a jetpack.
oh wow,
Yeah, because reality is unrealistic.
Right. So the opening, there's a funeral for one of the agents, and he fights the assassin, and then the Tom Jones song happens, and
which was unbelievable. That there's a legend that Tom Jones, the last note of that, he held it so long he passed out. Now it's a legend, but it's a great song if you get into the whole Thunderball genre. It's I mean, for God's sake, it's Tom Jones.
well, it's one of the few ones that has the theme worked into it.
Yes.
Right, like the
Oh yeah, the whole thing.
and he strikes. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Like
It's great.
Yeah.
It's a great song. I think though, so Bond on vacation, as much as I love that idea, when he's like being tortured by that weird rack thing, the impression that I got, it was silly. It wasn't dangerous.
No.
So, in the back of my mind the whole time. So Auric Goldfinger was a dangerous guy.
Had a laser.
And then Red Grant was a dangerous man.
Oh yeah.
And while Laszlo is a dangerous person, Inspector's very dangerous. Like you said, Dad, it starts edging into the silly. It starts getting there. So then when you get to the later ones, and Roger Moore's blowing up the guy with the cat in a helicopter, that's just silly, right? And I don't know. It wasn't. That's the impression that I got early on, so that kind of stuck with me. However, I love, we get to the meeting at Spectre, which I think anything in Spectre is great, and
I love that. Whole
he
thing.
he just goes and he parks. Lazo parks, and the guy comes down and like, you can't park here, and he like glares at him, and he's like, oh.
In
the back of my head, I'm like, he's like the mob in Philly. I'll just park wherever the fuck I want. Like that's I'm here, man. Like you tow me, do it.
But all of the layer they go into, all of a sudden they walk through the whatever, and they open the door, and then all the people are reporting to number one. It was perfect. I mean that's how bad or evil organizations should be run.
I would love, they only, and they don't get into, they don't do everybody, which is fine, which is good. They only like highlight like number 7, how is our operation in China's heroin, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Give me an update on this. I'd love to hear like what's like the lowly 14s like. Well,
What's number 13? I'm in Cleveland.
I'm in Cleveland, and
Our mime punching operation.
Yeah.
what I did was I went through and I cut the bottoms out of all the salt shakers at fast food restaurants. So then when people pick them up, it all spills out.
Yeah.
And like everybody else is just like, oh, okay, great, Greg. Like, really evil.
yeah, Greg. But I thought it was great that, of course, the bad guy, you knew that somebody was going to get, killed.
Right.
And then when he gets electrocuted, the chair is on an elevator that takes him out. And I was thinking, wow, so every one of these chairs in the room, if you don't do well, you can be killed and just eliminated.
Which begs the question, and also begs
But
later
who
with the
built
pilot.
who built the room?
One who built the room. Also, why would you ever double cross this organization? You've that's obviously not the first time that's happened because they've built all this stuff.
Right.
Exactly.
So you've seen some of your compatriots get electrocuted and
Well,
sent
it's because
down.
they're evil and they're dumb. They're smart, but they also
because people
They
absolutely.
are too smart for their
I
own
work
good.
with these people every day.
right. They think they're smarter than. That's why that guy who is number 10, or I'm sorry, it's number 9 who dies, right? I think it's number 9. Number 9 thinks he.
Yeah, it leads you to think that it's going to be the other
Right.
guy, and then he
Yeah. So number 9.
But of course, you realize it's
Right.
not
Number
gonna
9
be.
thinks that he should be number 6. That's why he did it. He thinks he should be a higher number than 9. And
Right.
so
That you nailed it, Luke. You nailed it, Lucas. It's just hierarchy. I need to be on top of that guy.
now
he's below all of them.
what I love is that they did the same thing in From Russia with Love. They did the same thing that they did in Goldfinger almost, where in Russia with Love we have on Spectre Island we have the long elaborate training sequence. Well, in Goldfinger we have the MI5 or MI6's training sequence, Q's headquarters. They spend a lot of time there to mirror that to show that they're equals. In this movie they do it directly because they've got the Spectre's council, and then once they hatch their plot, they send a message to MI6 and they call every 00 back. And you see every 00 sitting in a room, and it gives a sense of scope to both the more than both, gives a scope to the organization, the problem, and the solution. That everyone is.
And what a great
God, right?
room.
For both of them.
Oh my
both
God.
Of them. Both of the
And
rooms are great.
the high back chairs are sitting in, and of course, Bond comes in late, and M says, "I guess we can get started now."
And one of them's one of the
perfect.
00s is a woman.
And all the the giant tapestry would pull up to show a screen.
The 9 00s that we see, they're all sitting in a semicircle, and they're obviously the 7th seat is reserved for James Bond. But they do have a couple of shots where you see other 00s. What are their missions? What do their missions look like? Are they all the cold opens from the earlier films? And 2, they're all kind of average looking. And I was actually really impressed that if you look at them, there's actually a woman. One of the 00s is a woman. And for the 60s, I thought that was a really interesting, thing.
Huh? I don't remember that.
I feel like it's either this one or it's a later one with Sean Connery, where they have another group view. But
Okay.
I feel like I saw that.
I just thought it was really cool that they thought this was such a big deal that
Call everybody in.
the Earth is being held hostage, that they called all the 00s into a room and assigned them tasks to go find this, figure
Right.
this out.
Real quick with so he's on vacation and he's at the place where they're stashing part of their plot. James Bond has a very tumultuous and and kind of now in retrospect icky history with
Consent.
This one was like very overtly like he just goes and tries to kiss this woman and she's like, "Get away from me!" And I was like, "Hey, that's pretty rapey. Knock it off."
Yeah.
So this is 1965,
Yep.
and that was, unfortunately, that was cool.
Yeah. Oh, and you can't.
Yeah, no, I
No,
get it.
and you can't.
It was cool.
I can't. Like you're not obeying to the social rules and mores of my century right now. Like, well, of course not. You were
Right.
back then, but that's still like
Viscerally, yeah.
like that. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't age. This one in
But
particular
then,
didn't age great.
but then remember, I was a 9-year-old kid watching this, thinking, "Wow, that's really
Yeah.
cool."
Right.
Oh, and that's, which is its own problem. No, I actually really like. I do think the vacation sequence is great because we see the aftermath of one of his missions. We see an actual aftermath of it. We don't see him be a. We don't immediately go into. As we said, like each of the cold opens is this is Tuesday. This episode doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We see him go into.
But I never considered it a vacation sequence. It was a
Recuperation.
I need a recuperation sequence. But what are the odds that he would go to the same place that this entire Spectre plan was going to be, covered? I thought, wow, talk about a coincidence.
Well, they even kind of
Yeah.
they even kind of like lampshade that and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that is a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
wow.
yeah. It's a great spot next to this airfield. Well, that's the incredulous thing to me, because if it's a relaxing spa, why is it next to an airfield that's going to be constantly loud? Also, I want their windows, because he shuts. There's a jet engine going off outside, and he shuts the window, and it's silent in there now.
Mute. It silences that. Yeah.
Yeah, I want that as a window.
So the plot, the Spectre's plot is we're going to go hijack this plane, and we're to steal the nukes, the atomic bombs, and hold the world ransom with the bombs. And to do this,
Right.
they get a guy and they pay for plastic surgery so he looks like the pilot that's piloting the plane.
Crazy.
And in the back of my mind, I'm like, how much money does all these heists cost? Like,
I mean, this is almost like the Austin Powers. We're gonna, hostage this for $1 million.
yeah, like what's
And I'm like, wait a
what's your
minute.
profit margin here? Because it can't.
Yeah,
Right, like you're making maybe $100,000. Like there's got to be an easier way to make $100,000.
And they even
Yeah.
talk about like
Oh, you're doing.
I love how their whole group.
I mean, look at they laid out they laid out lights underwater so they could land the plane, and it was
You have to
crazy.
hire all those people and keep
What?
them quiet.
and all the contractors involved.
You had they have a guy that Largo has a shark guy. He has a shark guy to fill that tank.
That has to be.
Yeah, it's
that
a
has to
shark
be
guy.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, really, what? How much money are you actually making?
Well, I don't even know if it's the money at this point, because now it just seems ideological. It has to be ideological for them. They're just evil for evil's sake. That
Right.
because that's the only way this makes sense. Because if you listen to their numbers of the amount of money that they're making off of their drug enterprises and all of their Greg unscrewing all of the salt shakers.
Greg.
If the amount of money that they could be making from that isn't very much, like the drug dealer, the guy who almost dies, he says, "Yeah, we ended up making $2.5 million." Okay, that's a substantial amount of money. That's not that much money for the amount of high tech gear that they have going on, for the amount of what they have, what they do.
The number of people.
God, right?
Look at all the. Okay, so look at the underwater sequences, and all of the craft that they have driving around underwater that were specifically designed to pick up atomic weapons, not nuclear weapons, atomic weapons. They kept saying that.
Right.
How much did all that cost? And all these people, there were probably 50 people underwater fighting. And I'm thinking, what's the paycheck involved in that? How at the end of the day, these guys get out of the water and go, well, I need to go home and get something to eat and
what is their
and live somewhere.
What is their dental plan look like?
What's my paycheck?
Like how good is their dental plan?
What's my 401k?
I liked that his ship, it has the breakaway bit, the Batmobile escape pod from Batman Returns. The name of the ship is the Disco Volante, which is Italian for flying saucer, and it launches a flying saucer.
Now, I read an article about that this movie, they spent about half the budget on that boat.
That tracks.
Because that boat actually was real. When it separated, the hydrofoils, it actually was real. It worked. So it was crazy.
So the plot, they steal the atomic weapons. James Bond is alerted to this. He recognizes the person as someone that he saw at the recuperation place. So he's off to the Bahamas, which is another tropical location. And on the heels so quickly of, we just been to the Bahamas and Dr. No. I know Fleming lived in Jamaica, so he had an affinity for that location, and it's a very exotic place. But I do like the ones that branch out to places that you haven't been to before.
Yeah,
movies.
Right. I did like that. M asked him, do you want to do this because of your affinity for water sports, or do you actually need to do this? And he said, no, I actually saw that guy die. And the other person said, well, that's impossible. And M supports him. He says, nope, if 007 says this,
good enough for me.
True.
Yeah. It's good enough for me. Yep, I buy it. There's another casino scene. So he's down there.
Yep.
And for me, the one in Dr. No works because it's so simple. He doesn't say a lot of stuff. He says his name. He's smoking a cigarette.
It's perfect.
He's perfect.
Well,
it is. It was absolutely perfect. This one was great too, but there's a lot more talking, and it's and I don't know. So it was just different.
Well, he kept interacting with Largo,
right.
And it was kind of like he was saying things that like snarky, like Largo wouldn't understand that he knew what he was going on. But
yeah, you said that you liked Largo. Largo to me was actually really boring. He's way more boring than Goldfinger. He's not anywhere near as menacing. He's not anywhere near as
shot across the bow.
What's up?
Wow.
Yeah. No, I think he's just kind of. I thought he was kind of boring, and it's funny because he's the character that Robert Stack's based off of in the Austin Powers movies.
Oh wow! Because I actually thought that Largo was a much better villain than Goldfinger.
Really? I don't see.
Yeah, just because of he was much cooler. I mean, when the guy was killed in the room, he was just there writing notes down, like,
this is Tuesday.
He couldn't be bothered by it.
Yeah,
okay.
It was just like, whatever. But no, that's just my opinion.
So he's staying at the hotel, and he's trying to get up into Largo, and I love the part. So he's met Largo's niece, Domino, and she's the one that's gonna she's the love interest, and he's there with another agent, a female agent, and in her room, he comes in and he's kind of weirded out. There's something going on here. Again, I love the little spy things, like when he's actually being a spy.
Yes.
He goes to the book that he's set up a tape recorder in, and he rewinds it, and then the camera follows the movements of what he's listening to. So watching it happen, but
that was really cool.
Footsteps.
Oh,
He's watching the footsteps go across the room.
And knows where they are.
That was just really neat. I liked that a lot.
I liked that you mentioned the. I loved the fight, the small fight he has where he just decks Felix Leiter because Felix is a chump. where he hits him. I just thought that was great that he hits him because he almost says, "You almost said 007," and then immediately, okay, you said 007 to a guy who's awake right now.
I wrote the same thing down. Lucas, I wrote the same thing that you were about to say 007. You were probably just...
Why?
You just said it louder than he was going to say it. So, you were the worst ever. I'm a spy. Like, that's just all you do.
And you know, it's interesting because in the books, he was never a spy.
Right, he's the assassin.
He was an assassin.
But an assassin is a much harder sell as a hero than a spy is. But he's he's barely a spy in this. He does very little spying. He just he does tend to stumble into villain plots.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because even in any of them so far, he hasn't really been a spy.
He's not sneaking around stealing
He's been a
secrets.
Detective most of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
It isn't until later when he's breaking into a Russian, he has to jump off a dam to get a Russian place to steal stuff or blow things up. But yeah, it's more, there's something bad going on, so I gotta go figure out what it is. So I guess he's a secret agent.
Right. Which that's...
Right. Which is very 60s.
Mm-hmm. Did I hear... This is something I wanted to ask you both. So, they're ransoming... it's a British movie, so they're ransoming the world for £100 sterling. Mm-hmm. To be paid in diamonds.
Yes.
Why were they paying... Like, what?
Well, because...
Well, I think diamonds are easily gotten rid of.
Yeah, diamonds you can get rid of, and they can
them.
also
Okay.
cancel them.
Yeah.
They can having that much... Having British pounds means that you can you can use them in England. You can use them in, the colony, and the few colonies that still use them. This is diamonds are forever.
Oh my God. I cannot believe you said that. I will say that I wrote this one down because of when the guy was doing the ransom notice. This is what we want in pound sterling and all that. He said he wants Big Ben to chime 7 times at 6 o'clock. I thought that was the coolest thing that they would think, the writers would think, let's put that into this.
Yeah, let's do...
Into the script.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that happening? Because people listen to Big Ben, all the time, and all of a sudden that would happen. That's pretty cool.
And even it's just something subtle, but even the clock tower that I have on campus, if it was to ring the wrong amount of hours, I instantly would be, wait a minute. What?
Wait a minute.
Something's weird.
What was that?
Well, any clock that's wrong is just unsettling. And so the most famous clock in the world,
being wrong would get the point across that, hey, we got your message. I think all these movies have great set pieces, right? Like that's what they're built on. That's what you remember. You remember the Fort Knox fight job, and you remember the train fight in Russia with Love. This one, the underwater fight, is phenomenal.
Oh, it's phenomenal, and I love the parade that he was weaving in and out of the people,
right?
Because he was shot. That was really good.
I mean, it's like how whenever you go to New Orleans, there's always a Mardi Gras parade, and if you go to Chicago, there's always a St. Patrick's Day parade. So, I mean,
to have him, go through the parade, and finally ends up dancing with her, and then, the crescendo builds, and then she gets shot, and he puts her down with somebody else and says she's just dead.
I know you think that the one-liners are a little much, but they're part of James Bond. So I actually
they are.
I know. I think that this was still a good one. It's just it's
definitely weaker.
Where did Thunderball come from?
It was the code name for this.
Right,
entire
and I
mission.
didn't know if it had
Right.
I knew it was the code name. I just didn't know if it had any significance.
It came from Tom
I
Jones.
don't think so.
Now, I
Perfect.
think that we would be remiss without mentioning the turmoil and controversy that surrounds this movie
Okay.
Okay.
with Kevin McClory. And
Oh yeah.
so this movie is based on Thunderball, the novel. It was kind of it was a novelization of a screenplay that Fleming and this guy McClory and a couple other people had started writing. McClory kind of was like, you know, they made Dr. No, they made Russia with Love, they made Goldfinger. They were going to make this one. And he's like, I'm a part of this. You need to make me a part of this. So it's. I actually think I don't was Broccoli, like if you look at the Wikipedia page, it's produced by Kevin McClory. It's not
Thunderball?
produced by
Albert Broccoli.
Broccoli and
Really?
and if you I remember if you look at the credits, like he's in it, like he produced by Kevin McClory.
Wow.
So
And so this, and then that is what leads to the long legal battle, and that's why we get Never Say Never Again.
exactly.
Which is the
Okay. So
same movie.
McClory received sole producer credit on this film, and Broccoli and Saltzman instead served as executive. So like they just kind of appeased him, and like it was a huge success. Mm-hmm. And I actually read it exceeded every one of them before, and also did better than the 5 movies that followed it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a very big,
Well, but
loud,
they kind of went downhill.
Oh, it's a flashy, bombastic movie. I just thought that was interesting. There's a movie that basically Fleming and McClory, they thought that they owned this story. So then McClory
Yep.
goes off and makes Never Say Never Again, which we'll get to. But there's this controversy of Saltzman and Broccoli weren't actually as involved as they had been in the other movies.
right.
Huh.
So just wanted to bring it up. I thought that was I was interesting.
Yep.
But no, this was good. This was again, I think that it's
Once again, I think it was a really good movie based on my
I have to
Optics
wonder,
of
how many James Bond movies have you seen in theaters, Dad?
I think all of them.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure I've seen all of them in the movie. Maybe the first 2, maybe not, because I was
Right.
kind of young. But I remember going to the movies and seeing this one.
so it'll be interesting when we get to Goldeneye, because that was the first
Yep.
I remember going to the theater and seeing. So
Right.
I'll feel
Because
different.
it's all. I mean, it's all about how you
Right.
perceive things. I mean, this one, I don't know. There's so many things that were so cool in it. The
The underwater fight
thinking
is so
about
brutal.
James Bond it was amazing. That was one of the first underwater sequences filmed that way.
Right. Like you have,
And when he was on the hydrofoil, the foil trying to climb up into the ship, that wasn't CGI. That was
Right.
real. I mean, it wasn't, of course, Sean Connery, but
Yeah.
or maybe it was. I don't know. And then the end, it killed me. The end of the movie when there was no reason for him to do it, but of course he hooks a harness up, and there was a plane that flies through and picks both of them up.
I honestly expected
Because-
him just to leave
because
her
it's
in
cool.
the life raft, because intentionally or otherwise, just because he's going to get picked up by a plane. I don't know how he may be strong. I don't know how good his upper arm strength is to hold on to a 100 to 150 pound unsecured load.
Lucas, it was
I'm
Sean
aware
Connery.
it was Sean Connery.
It was Sean Connery. But I will say the Disco Volante, that's probably the coolest boat I've seen. It was pretty cool.
So yeah, this was. I'm glad that we got back to watching these. It'd been a while.
Yes, it had.
So this
Yeah.
was it was
Yep.
nice to see this one again. I will say that after this one, I know that it's going to start taking a very dramatic downturn. But I say that having not, I haven't seen the next couple of them in a long time.
Right.
We'll see how it goes.
They get kind of gadgety.
Yeah.
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 but they were.
And that's okay. I mean, they're fun movies.
Until
That's yeah.
until some of them weren't. Well, great. Well, Lucas, where can folks find us?
We can be found on Twitter and Instagram at SwordInBoardCast. We can also be found on basically every streaming platform you can think of. Our theme music, Iron Curtain Shuffle, is produced by the incredible Ryan Boyd. You can find them at Ryandroid on Twitter.
Our artwork is done by the wonderful Wes Forbes. Our movies are done by James Bond. So that's
So Board, James Board, will return in
You Only Live Twice.